So be careful what you say on the mic. Okay, we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. It's August 29th at 5:31, and this is a special meeting of the Santa Fe Public Schools Board of Education. Our board president, Romana Beta, is traveling and is participating by phone. Can you hear us okay, President Abeta?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, great. Let me know at any stage if you can't hear, particularly, obviously, the candidates' answers is the key part.
Will do.
Okay, but we will start with our Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the New Mexico flag in English and in Spanish, as well as the acknowledgement of tribal land. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Juro fidelidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Saludo la bandera del Estado de Nuevo México, el simbología de amistad perfecta entre culturas unidas. And the acknowledgement of tribal land. We acknowledge that our Board of Education meeting is taking place on occupied indigenous land. We acknowledge the Tesuque Pueblo lands and other tribal lands on which we stand. We honor these people, past, present, and future. We acknowledge the history and ongoing colonization of where we are sitting right now in New Mexico and in our country. We acknowledge our own place in the story of colonization. Thank you very much. Now we are on to approval of the agenda. Any changes needed, Superintendent?
Good evening, Vice President Noble. No changes this evening.
Thank you very much.
Madam Vice President,
Yes.
I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed or otherwise? Okay, we've approved the agenda. Moving on to introduction of interpreter. Superintendent.
Thank you, Vice President Noble. Taking us into our introduction this evening is Deputy Superintendent Romero.
Para asistencia de traducción en español, la señora Rivera te ayudará.
Thank you very much, Assistant Superintendent. We are then moving on to our District 5 candidate interviews. We have two candidates whom we will be interviewing tonight. We're going to rotate asking questions among the three board members who are here in person. We will invite our candidates up to the podium to answer the questions, but we will have each of you out of the room while the other is answering questions. I want to say most of all, thank you both for the application. Public service is not easy. It's sometimes not for the faint of heart, and we really appreciate both of you making the effort and being willing to serve on the school board. So thank you so much for everything you already do for this community and for stepping forward to be considered for this position. Anything I'm missing, Superintendent?
I think you've covered it. We will escort you, Mr. Abeta, whoever is not answering questions first, back to a room, and there is some water and snacks for you.
Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and start with candidate A, who is Kevin Bowen. So Lynn Gardner-Heffron will be taken to the next room, and we will see you in a little bit. And Mr. Bowen, if you want to make your way to the podium, please. And we do have the application packets and the vetting, thanks to the Santa Fe Public School team who did our checking on both of our candidates who are qualified, both of them, to take this position, so we appreciate that. And we have resumes and letters and some other information in front of us, so just know that. But we'll start with the first question, if you're ready, Mr. Bowen. All right. Thank you for being here again. The first question is, why do you want to be a school board member, and what makes you uniquely qualified for this position?
Well, I have paid attention to education for a long period of time, and I've watched Santa Fe Public Schools and some of the things that they've been going through. And I have been someone who speaks about education in general in this country because of the position I'm in with the Human Rights Alliance. And what appears to be lack of education in some cases, especially civic involvement and understanding how to find truth and justice and equity. So those things were of interest to me, and I saw that the position was open, and then a colleague of mine prodded me and said, "You really should apply." And I thought, well, okay, I'll apply because that's what I do, is I like to step up to challenges. And although I don't have an education background, I do have some exposure with children, and both with preteens, teens, and older youth. And that really being, if you wanted me to get into many details, with the Pilates Method Alliance, when I founded that organization in 2001, one of the wishes of Mr. Pilates, who created Pilates, was that Pilates should be in every school in the country. And myself and two of our board members who were in education, we put together a Pilates program for kids in PE classes. Now, this was 2004. Back then, PE was kind of out of school, and everyone was worried about getting sued if kids were out on the playgrounds, which they probably still are if they get hurt. But this program we thought was really important because it creates a holistic approach to health, equity, and education. And we know that through statistics, that kids do better when they exercise not only their minds, but their bodies. And I think I've already forgotten your second question, so I apologize for that.
The second part of the question is, what makes you uniquely qualified for this position?
That question is my commitment to social justice, my commitment to this community within my position currently, my commitment to the city, and to the continued evolvement of what is happening here, which is a complicated city with lots of complicated issues. I was really pleased to see that you pledge allegiance to both flags, and you also recognize the ground that we stand on belongs to the indigenous. That, I think, is very important. And I like to take a comprehensive look at everything when I'm involved in a project, and I don't like to do a bluntly crummy job. So if I was decided that I would be on the board, I would hope to educate myself as much as possible in things that I don't know currently, and be able to, I think in some cases I might even provide some type of voice of reason. Not that you all are unreasonable people, mind you, I'm just saying that I like to present myself that way, and I try to hold a lot of integrity.
Thank you very much. Dr. Gonzalez, you want to continue with question 2?
Sure. What do you see as the basic purpose of the public schools, and what is the role of the school board in the fulfillment of that purpose?
The public school system, like any school system, should be supporting and nurturing the children they're charged with. I think that type of education is, as I alluded to before, kind of well-rounded. And I think it's important that we don't let, especially in the school system, partisan politics come into what's being offered as far as curriculum and education. I think that the importance of the school system is to provide a really strong foundation for the kids, that we as a community, and even if we're not on the board, I think as a community, we're all charged with educating our youth because they are going to provide the future for us. And as a school board, I think it's a responsibility to have a back and forth when we have to look at hard issues that might affect children or will affect children. And it's so comprehensive in nature. I just saw today that, and this is kind of off base, but it's not, the FBI has a backlog of sexual assault against children to be investigated nationwide. And they're blaming it on a lack of staffing. But it's an issue. It's a very rough issue for a lot of children to deal with that. But more importantly for the school board, I think that to provide such a nurturing environment and to provide a sense of wonder and joy for our children to be able to learn. Mm-hmm.
What do you see as the key strengths of the Santa Fe Public Schools and the main weaknesses? What are your priorities if you are appointed, and how would you approach accomplishing them?
The key strengths that I'm familiar with the public schools is its diverse approach to supporting the children in schools. And I'm going to be quite specific because of the Human Rights Alliance and my work with advocacy with that level. We are deeply concerned as an organization that children are nurtured in school, and with what's going on with our kids these days that I explain on a regular basis to people my age and even a little bit younger, because they don't understand how children have been exposed to so many things between social media and the fluidity of their understanding of a lot of things such as gender and how they identify. And from my own personal experience with that in later in an all-boys Catholic school and before that in the Catholic school, was the fact that there wasn't a lot of support. And I've seen the work that the school system has done for that, and that means every child gets supported, no matter who that child is, and even everyone from disabilities all the way through, the bright shining stars who will go on maybe to become the next female president of the United States. I'm not supposed to talk like that, I don't think, sorry. But I see that as a role within the public school system here, and I'll give you an example because we put on Pride every year when the school bus is in the Pride Parade. And the number of families and children that I see that have a recognition of, oh my God, I've had out-of-towners who I know who've come to our Pride celebration and were quite in awe of all of that. And you know what? That makes me really proud to be in the city, to doing what I'm doing already, and to love Santa Fe in such a way. I've lived here twice. I am not a native New Mexican by any stretch of the manner. I identify as a he, him. My background, although my name, Kevin Bowen, is Irish. On my father's side, I'm only second generation in this country on my mother's side. My grandparents were Sicilian immigrants that came through Ellis Island. So I love the diversity because we all learn from one another.
Thank you. What are the jobs and responsibilities of board members, and how would you approach the role? In other words, please describe what kind of board member you would be.
Well, I would be a dedicated board member. I think half of the battle these days is showing up. And showing up means A, your physical presence, but B, your emotional presence and commitment. I would want to dive in and learn as much as I can about what you all have done before, what you're currently working on, and how as a board we can shape something. I have also learned that sometimes my voice may be a voice of dissent among others who are in agreement with something. So I also know that there's a time to strongly express dissent, and also a time to step back and say, okay, we voted and that's the way it goes, and we have to support the board. When we were trying to create a national certification exam for Pilates that is now still in use this day, it was quite a practice because there weren't a lot of educators in this. It was just a bunch of somatic people who knew the body and knew movement and had some formal education. And our psychometrician in this process couldn't deal with all of the bickering back and forth. And we had to bottom line it to, can you live with that decision? And if you tell me you can't live with that decision, then maybe we need to come together again. But if you can live with the decision, then you move forward with that decision. So on any board I've served, I try to be a supportive person on the board, and also recognize the power of the position that I may be in.
Okay, excuse me. What do you see as the most important aspect of representing District 5 constituents when making decisions that impact all students?
Well, that to me would be simply A, understanding impact, and B, making sure that I, as a board member, if that's the case, along with the other board members, have exhausted every possible scenario for looking at something, and that we have a lot of information about decisions that are made so we can make an informed decision. And not only that, I like to think ahead. So for me, I try to think ahead, well, how will my decision impact something in the future? And sometimes when people get really emotional and concerned about things that go on, we might want to put a quick fix on it. And I don't know if that really is the correct solution. So I think an educated decision is important.
How do you see yourself working with the superintendent and team? Please include how you would approach dealing with community concerns and issues raised about specific schools and student experiences.
Repeat the last part of that question, please, about the specific concerns and
How you would approach dealing with community concerns and issues raised about specific schools and student experiences.
So to start with the superintendent, I would really prefer in any job that I go into or any position that I go into, I need to gather information and know how things work. So I would imagine working with the superintendent. If I had questions, I would be asking questions directly to the superintendent and gathering as much information as possible, including legacy information and current information, and then forward-thinking information. Secondly, dealing with problems with schools individually, I would assume we would want to look at that as a board. I don't think it's any board member's responsibility to go to the media and start talking about things. if that's really what you're getting at with the question. I think it's important to address individual issues, but we have to present a united front, even though sometimes it may be a little challenging to do that. I was interviewed for another position with the city and got to talk with the mayor about a few things and got to understand in certain positions how you might be hounded, which I can imagine might be the case here. You just have to stand up and whatever we can say, which is probably quite limited, would be said, and then we would move on from that. Working behind the scenes to me or undercutting what the rest of the board is doing is kind of not a cool thing to do, in my opinion.
One last round from each of us.
Okay.
What issues do you currently feel the school board and Santa Fe Public Schools are not addressing, and do you have any solutions you hope to implement to resolve these concerns?
In the best way that I can look at this, I don't know whether every student is feeling welcome in the school system. And what I mean by that is I don't know if there's an understanding of the differences in history, background, education. And I think that what could probably be done better is more nurturing of the students, and just meaning perhaps taking a closer look at certain things. Like, for example, I know with education these days, I think it's important to tell people or tell the kids that you don't have to go to college necessarily right out of high school. You may not even want to go to college. And if I think maybe looking at individual students and what their aptitude is for different areas of life, and then nurturing, that's what I mean by nurturing those areas. Like if I'm a little kid and I like to build something, like let's get that kid building something and maybe tie that into the rest of their education so they're excited about that. Those to me, and not being in education, but having a few people here I know who are in the school system, I think that's really important because creating a really holistic person is really important. And I'm going to go back to one of the first things I said, which is civic engagement. To me, that is critical on so many levels because I believe a lot of people are walking out of school, and if all they're attending is high school, they don't even know what their rights are, let alone, like, how do they vote? How old do you have to be to vote? Why is voting important? Why is being an active community member important? So I would think, and maybe I'm wrong, I would think those arenas are really important. And one of the things that really helped me when I was in high school is we were all required to do charity work. We couldn't graduate without having so many hours logged in. I'm not saying that that should be something that should be instituted in the school system, but getting involved in the community and actually seeing a job path to graduate from high school and stay here and not run away to another city because Santa Fe doesn't have what is exciting or what they need.
Okay. How does your vision for board membership align with or differ from the mission, vision, and core beliefs of Santa Fe Public Schools? And how might you like to see this evolve?
I don't think it is that far off at all with the vision of the Santa Fe Public Schools. I would hope that if I became involved, that I might be able to leave some type of a mark. a positive mark with my involvement and with maybe my points of view on how as a city and as a school system we look at education and how we do things. It would not, of course, be something that I would just bring off the top of my head, but it would be more of an amalgamation of ideas and thoughts and understandings. One of the things I can say that I've been really good at in my life is consensus building. That to me is really important because building consensus and understanding is an important aspect, I think, of what we do as a school board or what you would do as a school board. And also realizing we may not make everybody happy. Everybody's got a different idea of what's going on, and how do we recognize that and say that we see them and provide a better pathway.
You stated that you are committed to running for this position in the next election. Please tell us about that commitment and what you most want the community to know about you as a candidate for that position.
When is that election? Is it this November?
Not this year, next year.
Next year. I would think by that point, with my commitment, if I was on the board, would be to stay on the board. And I would hope that in the time, if I was chosen to be on the board, that I would have some type of a track record that I could not fall back on, but utilize as part of a platform in education. So my commitment there would be to, if I'm chosen, to give it my best to be the best school board member I could be, and then maybe catapult myself off of that into an election. But I firmly believe that in any position, one has to come into it with an open mind and a willingness to learn and to understand, and then to see where those spaces are that as an individual we might be able to make a difference.
Okay, that concludes our questions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bowen. And now I think we'll have you trade places with Ms. Heffron and bring you back as we talk about it.
Can I put this down here? Well, I don't need this right now.
All right. Welcome, Ms. Heffron.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. We're going to rotate questions amongst the three of us that are present. So if you're ready, we'll go ahead and get started.
Please do. Thank you.
First of all, please tell us, why do you want to be a school board member, and what makes you uniquely qualified for this position?
I want to be a school board member because since I've moved to Santa Fe, I've been directly involved with the Santa Fe Public Schools, AIAI, and others in the community. So my learnings in that experience, both tutoring and currently even as an avid tutor the last several years, have engaged me to learn about the public school situation especially where I have been an avid tutor. First was at Capital, which I know is not in my district, District 5. However, Santa Fe High and Milagro I was as well. I also was a tutor at Sweeney and organized tutors at Sweeney. About 50 people I organized to help specifically Santa Fe Public Schools, originally at Mary Massey's request. So in other words, I feel like my working in the community at large, as well as within the public schools, taught me to want to do more for the public school students, the teachers, their parents, and the staff. And that's why I'm here.
Turn on. What do you see as the basic purpose of the public schools, and what is the role of the school board in the fulfillment of that purpose?
I think the purpose of the public schools is well defined in your own statement about the mission and the vision that you have lined out for the public to see. And I would tell you that my experience throughout my whole life, really my adult life, has been in promoting equal opportunities for all, including women, including people of color, including Indigenous Americans. Diversity, equity, and social justice have been my calling cards throughout my entire career. I started as a teacher in Fairfax County, Virginia, teaching high school English, and learned immediately that there were students who were not in the middle class there. And that brought me further to learning about more when I moved then to California and now to New Mexico, about how to promote these better situations for everyone in that family, in that body. Am I answering your question, or I may be going off on a tangent. I don't, I'm sorry. Okay.
What do you see as the key strengths of the Santa Fe Public Schools and the main weaknesses? What are your priorities if you are appointed, and how would you approach accomplishing them?
The strengths are within the students and the teachers, period. I would give the school board some recognition as well, obviously. I would certainly give that recognition to Superintendent Chavez, who's been very helpful to me as I've been trying to organize tutoring and being helpful to the school system. I would tell you that the idea also is to continue to develop more specific answers to issues that are confronting what I see as the key issues, whether it is attendance, the lack of catching up from COVID, how to improve reading within the students. My concern at Sweeney a few years ago, when those in the 3rd grade that I was tutoring had never had a teacher. They had come all the way to 3rd grade with substitutes. There are specific items that I would love to address. The other piece I would call to your attention is I did look up, in fact, because I really wasn't familiar with the traditional Spotlight, Excellence, ATSI designations for our schools. And having been at Santa Fe High now for a number of years, I was rather struck that they are listed as an ATSI school. And I'm determined to figure out what that really means and how to be more helpful to that specific school that I feel like I know so well, and so many of the teachers that I've worked with who are still there. That would be another answer.
What are the jobs and responsibilities of board members, and how would you approach the role? In other words, please describe what kind of board member you would be.
I would have to, first of all, please know that both the superintendent and the board members, I'm going to be knocking at your door if I'm on this panel of board members, because I need to be educated. I am in the world of education, and I need it more than ever, because I want to understand the data that has been collected and why, and what's been done with the data to prove that we are still 49th or 50th as a state in education in the United States, much less why are Santa Fe Public Schools also not progressing as well as they probably should be. So I need to understand what the platforms are for evaluation. I need to better understand the new grading system and how that's actually impacting families and parents, because I've heard feedback about that over time now. So as a board member, I would be seeking a lot of questions, presenting a lot of questions to you for answers, and also, of course, to the superintendent.
What do you see as the most important aspect of representing District 5 constituents when making decisions that impact all students?
Well, once again, District 5 students, I was sorry to hear that. You know, quite frankly, I'm not very familiar with the elementary schools that are in District 5, Pinyon, Navamalog, Kearney, et cetera. I know my first chore would be, and I wouldn't say chore, that's the wrong choice. My first engagement, really, I would seek to find out those individual schools. Is it allowed? Can I meet with principals and sit down and introduce myself and find out from them what's happening? Can I meet with the staff and teachers there? Can I find out why they are in a traditional path and not more in an excellence path? I would do the same once again, with Santa Fe High, whose new principal I don't know. I would seek her out, however, as well as do the same with Salazar and find out what are the issues there that I can become educated about, what they're concerned about, so that in response, I can come up with ideas for solutions, or at least steps towards solutions for long-term answers to how to improve the situations in these schools.
How do you see yourself working with the superintendent and team? Please include how you would approach dealing with community concerns and issues raised about specific schools and student experiences.
I've already had a little bit of experience with that since I've been tutoring at both the unpaid and slightly paid level with Avid. But the superintendent knows, as well as Dr. Veronica Garcia knew, that I would come to her and to him when I had personal issues that had been raised to me at the schools by other organizations with which I'm affiliated, and seek his advice and counsel and help educate me once again on what is happening really from your point of view, not just what I hear in the workplace, but to consult with you and find out what your situation is. I'm still learning, obviously, about the role of the board, quite frankly. I've been on boards, but they've not been directed towards students and teachers in school situations. They've been corporations or not-for-profits. And I understand where you need to come forward and develop public policy and strategic plans and implemental plans, tactical maneuvers to make plans work. And I'm not sure how that actually works with the school board system, but that's what I would be willing to learn and figure out and work with the superintendent specifically on how I could achieve that.
What issues do you currently feel the school board and the Santa Fe Public Schools are not addressing? And do you have any solutions you hope to implement to resolve these concerns?
I wish I had those solutions. I'd be writing them in the paper right now. I think the situation is still, some of the things I mentioned earlier still come to bear, and that is, where are we after COVID still? What is the attendance? Why is that still not great? And to me, another important issue is how to get parents more involved in their students' education, how to be helpful to those families, whether they are direct parents, grandparents, or whatever the relationships are for guardianship. I'm more interested in also making sure, because of my background perhaps, that girls are considered for STEM career paths. And so I work on that already, and I would want to make sure that I am communicating somehow that females, no matter in the first grade to the 12th grade, are aware of other possibilities for jobs, job opportunities that actually are in the STEM fields, whether it's artificial intelligence or engineering. I know that as a tutor, I've worked with students at Santa Fe High, for instance, who've taught me more about physics, when I have worked with them. And I can't tell you what a thrill it is to learn from the students as well. And some of those students could be highlighted and create more formal relationships, perhaps within a school, to build a community of students interested in certain career paths or subjects. And I think that would be great. It would be great to have the book club that we started once at Sweeney Elementary. We started a book club so that we got free books and donated to the students and brought in volunteers to create a book club so that the kids would enjoy reading, not just see it as an obstacle or confrontational issue. Yeah.
Thank you.
How does your vision for board membership align with or differ from the mission, vision, and core beliefs of Santa Fe Public Schools, and how might you like to see this evolve?
I'm not sure I understand. Could you give me some more information relevant to that question?
Well,
Or ask me again, maybe, sorry.
how does your vision for board membership align with or differ from the mission, vision, and core beliefs of Santa Fe Public Schools, and how might you like to see this evolve? Now, I think you're familiar with the mission and,
I am indeed.
okay.
I carry it with me, as a matter of fact, to remind me. And if I look on page 2, that we believe, and then the attributes of a graduate, I agree with what the board has been doing in the past and the various members on the board that I've known over the 10, 12 years I've now lived in Santa Fe. I would also say to you, so in other words, I don't see any discrepancies with what I believe and what you have been putting forth. I think the real issue is how to make it happen perhaps more efficiently with better outcomes. That's always the case, whether you're an engineer or an English teacher. So.
You have stated that you are not willing to run for this position in the next election. Please tell us about that and what you most want the community to know about your interest as a candidate for this position currently.
I answered no for a couple of reasons. I've not been on a school board, as I mentioned before. I want to make sure that I'm a valuable, productive member of this school board if I'm chosen. I won't know that for another year. And the election is away, December 25. So I have time to prove myself and to prove to the community that I might be a valuable, viable candidate next go-round. But I don't know that yet, and I can't just ask for votes coming up in a year and a half. I have to prove myself.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That concludes our questions. Board members, I don't know if you'd like a moment to look over materials or anything, but the plan is, Superintendent, I think that's what these little slips of paper are. We're going to do a secret ballot. We should each have one. Do you have one, Board Member Bozé? Yes, yeah, we might as well bring Mr. Bowen back. Thank you, Joe. And I can say this all again, but Superintendent, you have one. And President Abeyta, the idea is the superintendent is going to pick up the phone, and you will tell him your vote when you're ready. We all then fold the paper in half and pass them to me, and I will tally the votes and see if there is need for further discussion or that sort of thing. So welcome back, Mr. Bowen. Thank you very much. I was just sort of describing, we all have these little pieces of paper, so we're going to do, in essence, a secret ballot. The superintendent will be picking up the phone and getting the vote from President Abeyta. They will pass me their folded pieces of paper, and at that point, I will see where we are and be clear as to what comes next. So for now, board members, are you feeling ready to go?
Madam Vice President, would you like names or numbers or letters or?
I think either names or letters. We haven't assigned numbers. They have letters on the agenda, so that I can
Okay.
handle. I can also handle names.
Thank you.
Okay, so sounds like we're ready to move forward with our ballot. Okay, I have 4 pieces of paper. I'm shuffling them. And now I will go ahead and one by one read what they say. But again, just to take a point of privilege and to thank you both for your commitment to this community, to the Santa Fe Public Schools, and for being willing to step forward and serve in this role. It is really difficult for me to express how much that means to me personally and how important I feel it is. And I know my fellow board members agree that this is a great job and one worth doing. And we really appreciate you being here and willing to serve. Okay, we have 1 vote for Ms. Heffron. We have a 2nd vote for Ms. Heffron. We have a 3rd vote for Ms. Heffron. And we have a 4th vote for Ms. Heffron. So it seems that the board is unanimous in the votes for Ms. Heffron to be appointed to this seat. With that, I'll go ahead and ask if any board members would like to comment, and then I'll go ahead and make a motion. Go ahead, Board Member Bozé.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I just would also like to extend my gratitude to both of you for being here. It's courageous, it's important, and I hope, Mr. Bowen, that you will continue to contribute to our community in all the valuable ways you always do. Thank you both.
And I can just say the same thing, ditto. I really do appreciate you both coming. And as Sarah said, Mr. Bowen, I appreciate your work very much. Thank you.
Okay, well, I will go ahead and move to appoint Lynn Gardner Heffron as the Santa Fe Public School Board of Education member for District 5 to fill the current vacancy for the remainder of the school board term.
A second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or otherwise? Okay, thank you very much. Welcome, Ms. Heffron, as the representative of District 5 to the school board. Thank you. Good point. Ms. Heffron, would you like to come up and say anything? Into that chair? Sure, why not? I'm pretty sure we've voted now, so it's official as of that moment. I promise it'll be quick. Yes. And I should say, yes. We had moved on to item 4 on our agenda, our new board member for District 5. You do, and you press the button, and it'll light up green. And if you want to say anything at this point, please, you're welcome.
First of all, I would like to thank Superintendent Chavez and the current board members for even considering my application for this, because I know their jobs have been more than difficult over several years now, and I'm trying to be a positive influence on the board so that I don't make it more difficult for each of you, but actually bring some constructive work and dedication to add to what you're already doing and to grow it, quite frankly. I'm looking forward to that, and I'm really looking forward to understanding about my specific schools that I represent and when can I meet them and when can I get information, and I'll talk to all of you later. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much, and you know your incredibly strong resume as an educator and an educated person clearly speak volumes for how you approach learning, and we appreciate that. I will. Because I sort of feel I have to repeat what Lorraine Price, a longtime school board member, district employee, teacher when I was in high school, principal, administrator, and again, school board member when I started on the board and longtime representative of District 5, what she said to me and what I said to Sasha when she took up this seat, which is make sure you don't give them too much to do. The superintendent and team have a very big job, and Lorraine was always aware of don't make the school board a problem that the superintendent has to solve. And again, she would say, don't give them too much to do. Their jobs are big already. So,
and there are a couple of members over here who are on the admin side working for the superintendent whom I've met before and worked with, and I would like to also thank you because you have always been helpful to me as well, trying to understand policies and procedures and make things better for our community and schools. Thanks very much. Thanks.
okay, good. If there's nothing else on that, we'll go ahead and move on to our advanced planning. We have a regular meeting scheduled for September 12th. And then a tentative study session scheduled for September 19th. Superintendent, is there anything you want to mention or flag on advanced planning?
No, not at this moment, Vice President Noble. I think everything looks like it's set in stone at this point in time for the month of September. I do want to mention, we'll provide an onboarding for you, and then at the next meeting, we'll talk about some of the appointments to audit CRC.
Yes. Good stuff. Thank you. There is some business to be done. Okay, anything else on advanced planning? All right, with that, we will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you, President Abeyta, for joining us by phone during your travels. Thank you, board members, superintendent, and staff, and welcome to our new board member. With that, we are adjourned, and we'll be back on September 12th. Thank you.